Good morning. It's time to get in touch. In Touch is a public affairs show dedicated to improving the lives of Susquehanna Valley residents. I'm Freddi Hammer, news director at Backyard Broadcasting.
When we hear about families in crisis on the news, it's natural to worry about the children. Will they be all right emotionally, physically? Will they have anyone to help them navigate a scary and cold court system? If they don't, the circumstances for these sweet kids in a bad situation through no fault of their own have no certain outcome, and it's something that will follow these families for years. If you could do something to help, would you? Could you? Well, today we're here with a representative from Susquehanna Valley CASA, Voices for Children. We're here with two folks. We're here with Louise Campana.
Yes, hello.
Hello, you're a case manager for Cummings-Snyder Union and Northumberland County.
Yes, I am.
And
yes.
Mike Belfey is here with us too. Hello, Mike.
Hi.
You're a case manager as well.
Just for Lycoming County.
All right, so I know that you have the broad reach. So
yes, we do.
So talking about the people that I just mentioned, the ones that may have in their hearts, what happens to the kids? How can a CASA person, a volunteer for CASA that you're looking for right now, come in and serve these children who need so much help? Let's talk about the children.
I'll speak to you with my volunteer hat on.
Okay.
When I came to CASA, it was about 7 years ago. My sister was a guardian ad litem. A guardian ad litem is the attorney for the children.
I see.
Okay, she's the guardian that protects the children. She speaks for them to the judge. Now, a CASA volunteer would work with the GAL and support the GAL in producing the best outcome for the child.
Okay.
So when a family is in crisis and a child is removed from the home by the CYS agency.
A child youth services person.
Yes, yes. The judge determines that the child needs to be out of the home. That would be one scenario. Or the judge could decide that he or she wants in-home dependency for the child. In either case, a CASA volunteer is appointed by the court to work directly with that child, be the eyes and ears for the court, that I'm the only person working with that only child. So that only child not only has their guardian ad litem, but they also have a special volunteer, a CASA volunteer, who will work with them, know them, go to school with them, go to the dentist with them, know their likes and their dislikes, their comfort and their discomfort, and get to know them like maybe they were your own child for a while.
So it's sort of a in between maybe of a foster feeling where you're helping them through this crisis.
Absolutely, because once a child is adjudicated by the court, adjudicated dependent, that case can only go one of two ways. The family either steps up, does all the services that they're required to do, and the children may be reunified in those cases. But if parents don't step up, they've lost their children. Right. They've lost them. So you have to fight to get them back. And if they don't, oftentimes their rights will be terminated.
Can you give me a percentage on how those cases typically go? Which ones? Is it a 50-50?
It's 50-50.
Is it?
It really is. I've handled two extreme cases. And in the one case, it was just like so amazing to me, because in the one case, the parents did everything they were supposed to do. And it was a struggle every step of the way. I was with them as their CASA. I got to know that family, those children, and I saw those parents come together and work to get those kids back, and they got them back, and they got them back 2 days before Christmas this year.
Isn't that wonderful?
Isn't that amazing?
And CASA had such a big hand in that,
yes.
Just for you being able to say, yes, they're on the right track.
Yes.
Mike, have you seen cases like this as well in this same scenario? Not as a volunteer, but as a case manager, you're probably shuffling through these families like, wow, how can we help them?
Yeah, we've seen actually lots of great outcomes. People don't think that the outcomes will necessarily be great, but there certainly are some that don't become reunified. But there's also others where the parents do step up, make a dramatic change, and for the benefit of the child. And the CASA is there to also get to know the parents and get to know how things are going. So it can be a really rewarding experience for everybody.
When you have a case management situation and you're looking for certain volunteers, do you know the volunteers so that you can say, this person would probably be great?
Yeah, we get to know the volunteers very well.
Sure.
So we go through initially we go through an interview of each of the candidates, and then they take a 30-hour training class, which is fairly intense, but good. It prepares the person to be able to be a CASA.
It's an intense scenario. You're in a courtroom
Correct.
Where it's very important and very serious.
Absolutely right. And so the training's good, but Louise and I generally attend every one of those sessions, even though we've been through it several times, so that we get to know those people. and know our volunteers very well. And then once we have open cases, we know those cases because, especially in Lycoming County, we attend almost every case that is there, whether we have a CASA or not. And so we know the case very well, and we know the volunteers' personalities, and we're able to match them up.
Because you have each volunteer on specific cases, you probably don't have a lot of volunteers on a lot of cases. Like everybody has one. You need volunteers to do each one, don't you?
Oh my gosh, in our counties, I know Northumberland County has a great need for volunteers. Every county does.
Sure.
As
We
long as you have a
absolutely do.
child who's adjudicated, you need a CASA volunteer. And we are so hurting for volunteers right now. And I know life is hard for all of us, and I know that people are reluctant to volunteer, maybe out of fear or, just sheer ignorance of what it's all about.
Sure.
But your CASA, your case manager, will follow you every step of the way. You may be reluctant to go into a foster home to meet your child or in the parents' home to meet your child, but your case manager will go with you.
Oh,
You will
that's good.
never be alone unless you want to be.
Right.
So it's pretty amazing. A couple of my volunteers, once their case is ended, am I allowed to stay in touch with Peter or John? Or I said, yes, absolutely, if you want to.
As a
yes.
mentor, that's wonderful.
Yes.
What kind of people, like they're sitting listening like, oh, I probably am not qualified. What kind of people are qualified to be volunteers?
Well, you have to be 21.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
one thing. That's a hard goal. Okay,
Right.
get there.
And you have to have, your clearances have to clear.
Background checks,
All
etc.
background checks.
Okay.
And then they just need to have a passion for helping children and a desire to do that. So we have people, with all different backgrounds. It's and the training itself is fairly intense. And as Louise said, you're not alone. So don't let it scare you.
You don't have to have a
credentials-
teaching degree
But
or a
many-
psychology degree.
No, just anybody who has a desire to help and love children, because you know what? This is our community. They're not just your children, they're our children. I think Hillary Clinton years ago said it takes a village, and that was the most profound statement I've ever heard.
It's true.
It does take a village.
We're here for these kids. We want to make sure.
Yep.
So it's a long-term process, too. A court date, an incident happens in 2020, and then we're here in 2021, 2022 going to court.
Right.
So that kind of long-term process is something you probably have to cope with, too, don't you?
Sure do.
As a volunteer?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We do ask for a commitment of 15 to 22 months, typically.
But that really breaks down to about 8 hours a month.
That's
of your
not much
physical
at all.
time.
Right.
And that's the bare minimum that you have to do. Now people choose to spend varying amounts of times.
Sure.
Varying amounts of time.
And cases sometimes close sooner than that. So it's a commitment, but again, lots of support. And
There's a class that actually is starting here coming up this week. So people that may not be ready to volunteer this week, but they could call for sure and let you know that they'd like maybe the next time or maybe this time.
Absolutely. And if you decide to do our training, you're not committed. You don't, once you decide if you don't want to do it, that's perfectly fine.
Time to learn whether
But
or not this is right.
Come be part of the training and just hear us. Hear what we have to say.
Now, what made you move from a volunteer to a case manager? Was it just the growing need, or did you have a passion to have more of a reach?
Well, the job came open, and I have a passion for CASA, and I just wanted to be involved as I possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
My background is in teaching. I retired a couple different times, and this one I'm going to stay with now. Maybe not in the case manager position, but in recruiting.
Sure, in CASA.
And then I'll volunteer again, because you can't volunteer while you're a case manager.
Oh, okay. So volunteers are ready to go. We're hoping that people want to get involved. You can go to Susquehanna Valley CASA.
.com. Yep.
And a phone number for over there?
Do you have that?
Yes, it's 570-988-2200.
Now, the pandemic was a thing because there wasn't much reporting of abuse or any problems. It's like the cases came down. Talk about that a little bit, about how you coped.
Right. Well, we didn't get too much in-person time in those days. But, some of our volunteers still went out anyway, wore their masks, and made sure they were taking care of those kids through the whole thing. Most of our court proceedings were on Zoom, so that was different. You didn't really get the experience of the courtroom or the feel of it. And I think people now are reluctant to come back out of their homes and volunteer. And I don't blame them. I understand completely. But when there's such a great need with our children, they're our future. They're our only resource. They're our only hope.
And you hear these stories every single day.
Yes.
Of families that are in this situation, and you want to help them. It's how we started this program. It's like, you hear it, don't you want to help? Let's help and do something.
If you can, we'd appreciate it. And we have all ages volunteers. I think our oldest is about 75.
The wisdom of an older person can really be used in this situation.
Yes.
Especially even with families, or, getting the example. Like, what a good example.
And if you would get into a situation where you got into a case and you just didn't feel like you were making an impact or you could do anything, we can rearrange that for you, get another volunteer, give you another case. We work with you. We want to please you. We want you to know how important you are to our kids.
Now, tell me about fundraising. You have a lot of opportunities. There's something coming up here in August. You have a poker run or something coming with the Susquehanna Valley Motorcycle Club.
Yeah, we have a motorcycle run.
Nice.
We just got done with a 5K.
Oh, nice.
Superhero
5K.
And all the kids came dressed up like superheroes.
Oh, I saw pictures of that. That was very cute.
Very cool, yes. And we have that. We have the motorcycle run. Then we have the Balloon Fest, which we take part in.
Okay. In Hughesville, that every year?
Yes, yes. And then we have our gala in November, which is one of our biggest fundraisers. Right. We also do a Hiawatha fundraiser.
Oh, fun.
So there are lots of opportunities, and they're fun. And you get to meet the other volunteers and, share stories. And it's kind of a great, it's a community thing.
And plus we do go out in the community and try to make contact with people that we think, would have access to volunteers. And so we pass out flyers and with the phone number.
Sure.
We pound the pavement.
Pound the pavement.
Do you get a lot of people that ask a lot of legal questions? They want more answers from you than you can answer?
Yeah, and I think people are afraid of the courts.
Okay.
And it is intimidating. I mean,
imagine a little child going through that.
That's it.
Right.
One day in court with one of my cases, we went for every 3 months you have a review. The one day all the kids were there. I had a family of 5 kids. The one little boy, he was in 1st grade, and the police officers are in the courtroom, of course, and they have their guns and everything, all their gear. And
sure.
This little boy was so fascinated by the police officer. He wasn't afraid at all. And he told the guy, I want to be a cop when I grow up.
Isn't that adorable?
They weren't afraid because they had their volunteer there, and it
Sure.
was just amazing.
And our court system is very receptive to CASA and the CASA reports that we prepare for each hearing. So
that's interesting to know because obviously that's a good thing.
No, they treat us very well. They treat the volunteers very well. So I want people to know that as well. If you become a volunteer, it's not like you're sitting on the outside. You're an important part of what's going on, and the judges respect that.
You can probably learn a lot from the court system by being an advocate.
Absolutely. The judges have said themselves, if they're inundated with papers and court reports before a hearing, if they don't get a chance to read anything else, they read the CASA report. They go right to the recommendations and see what we're recommending. I mean, it's really an honor to be so appreciated.
Right.
Well, you're doing good work, and you want more people to do that good work with you.
That's right.
Get on the phone and call up, and just come to the class or come and talk to you about it. I mean,
absolutely.
When you're talking about being on the pavement, you're the perfect organization to be at a festival with a table with papers.
Yeah, come see us. We're easy to talk with.
We are.
Well, that's great. When talking earlier about fundraising, you can just go right on and make a donation on the website too.
Absolutely. And if there comes a time and you want to go through the training and you want to be a volunteer, you don't have to work with kids. We have all different avenues. We have fundraising. We have all different avenues. You can serve on our board. We just appreciate your time and your interest.
Do you need any donations of physical things? I mean,
no, not really.
No,
CYS
not
does.
so much.
Children and Youth Services are great about making sure the families have everything they need, and CYS works well with us too.
Okay.
We try to have a good relationship with CYS because we're both in it for the same good.
Tell me about your new executive director.
Sabrina Finn.
Yes.
She comes to us from a domestic violence shelter in Danville, Pennsylvania, and we are excited. She's got some fresh energy. We also have a new program director.
Okay.
So the two of them have a lot of energy, and we're getting going.
How does that break up? So as an executive director is more of a person that's handling the whole aspect, and then a program is maybe about the events?
The overall picture of CASA.
Interesting.
There's a lot. There's a lot that goes involved with it.
Program director helps in a variety of ways,
Yeah.
including any type of required paperwork, those kind of things, to just helping us out with organization.
Go smoother.
They're also trained, so they'll be able to cover cases if needed.
So how many case managers are in the organization right now?
2.5.
Yep, 2.5.
So we want to
Right.
grow that.
Sure.
Right.
Talking about 700,000 cases across the United States of this, what in Pennsylvania, what is a number of cases that you deal with typically in a year?
Right now in Lycoming County, how many kids do we have waiting? 40, 50?
Yeah, probably 45 to 50.
Waiting for a CASA.
Will they have their court date without one?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
So this is
Oh, yes.
it's a
They
timing
just don't
thing.
have the extra hands and the extra eyes. And they need that because CYS is inundated.
Sadly,
Yeah.
we want to make sure that these 40 or 50 children that are waiting for
Right.
someone to help have someone with them.
Right. In Northumberland County, it's a countless amount. I don't know the number. Northumberland County is really in need of volunteers.
Is there a physical address where someone can come to see and talk to you?
Well, yes. Right now, we are in the basement of the Cliff Readers Law Firm on the corner of Pine and 3rd Street in Williamsport.
Okay.
You come in the front door and you ask for the CASA office. The kind secretary, Stephanie, will direct you downstairs to us.
All right.
Yes.
I wish that I had more time in my life so that I could be part of this. But, here I am. I'm in Williamsport, and there's no reason why I can't stay in touch with you and continue to learn about what's going on.
Oh, yes.
And
we
I
would
want
love
to
that.
lead others to go in the same direction and be a volunteer for the Susquehanna Valley CASA, court-appointed special advocate. If you have a legal degree, being a guardian ad litem, is that something that comes from the court, or is that something from a volunteer, a legal volunteer?
No, they're appointed. I think they're funded through CYS
Okay.
And they're appointed by the court
in the case.
I see.
for that case. In Lycoming County, we pretty much have one person that handles the majority of the cases.
Right. That's the way it is in most counties.
I see.
Yes.
All right. So we want to be involved in the class. So this class coming up on June 6th, but then when's the next one?
In September. We don't have a date yet for that, but
Okay.
in September.
Okay.
Yes.
So that to have a little bit of time to think about it?
Yes, absolutely. And you have our phone number, and you can also call my number,
Okay. Give me the phone number for Susquehanna Valley CASA.
570-988-2200.
And then that website is susquehannavalleycasa.com.
Right.
Correct.
Is there anything else that we want to touch on before we go today? It's such an honor to have you here in touch.
Yeah, I want to talk about the case that did not reunify.
Okay.
So I had a case with two little boys. They had different fathers, same mom. It was hard for the parents to maneuver to raise the children. It was just hard. Life is not easy sometimes, but there's no reason that the kids have to suffer, even though we have great admiration and we want to help parents. But in this case, it wasn't possible. So the two little boys were adopted by the same foster family. Wow. Then the mom became pregnant again, and unfortunately the child was taken by CYS. And that child, another little boy, was placed with his brothers, and now the three of them are living happily with their adoptive parents. Yes.
Oh.
And, and as sad as you feel for the mom and the dad, it worked out the way it needed to. It really did.
But look at the people that could step up and give those three boys a home. They could be together.
I know.
Isn't it wonderful that we do have an area here where it may be full and busy, but we are able to get some things done.
We've had a lot of great cases, a lot of good outcomes. Either way they come out, it's the right way.
And we have met a lot of heroic people, I would describe them, in all areas. Foster parents, folks who adopt children, people involved in the case. And so it can be rewarding, even though it sounds like a tough situation. It can be very rewarding.
And you need to be very careful about your recommendations and your decision, because, when someone loses their child, when their parental rights are terminated, it's like a death sentence. And it's hard, and it wears and tears on you. But you always have to keep in mind the children. That's all it's about, is the children.
Let them live.
Let them have permanency.
Right. And we want the very best outcome for each child.
Right.
And so that's what drives us. And that's what our recommendations are based on. So even though, it may be tough to make a certain recommendation, if you keep that in mind, it really is a guiding principle.
How long has Susquehanna Valley CASA been helping children in our area?
18 years.
Okay.
18 years. The whole program began back in 1971. There was a judge in Seattle, Washington. He was a progressive, and he had so many of these cases, and he just felt like he couldn't really get a handle on any one of them because he had so many. And so he advocated for CASA, and it became prominent in the country since 1971. I think every state in the union, maybe except for a couple, don't have a CASA.
And you sort of made it more clear to me, like, oh, the judge relies on a CASA volunteer to get them information, like you said before. Like, he goes right to that paragraph when he's looking at his paperwork.
That's right, exactly.
Because you have your hands in it.
Yep.
Well, I want everyone to volunteer for CASA, everyone who can. Because you know what? Here we are, helping the children.
That's right.
So one more time, 570-988-2200, and Susquehanna Valley CASA.com is the website for that.
Yes, it is.
Correct.
Louise Campana, you're a case manager for Susquehanna Valley CASA for all 4 of the counties, Snyder, Lycoming, Union, and Northumberland.
Yes.
And Mike Belfey, thank you so much for coming in as a Lycoming County case manager here.
Thank you.
You, Freddi Hammer.
We'll look forward to hearing about you next year. I want to hear about your big poker run. We'll find out more about it in August, okay?
Okay, yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us today on In Touch.
In Touch is locally produced in our studios at 1685 4 Mile Drive in Williamsport. To get in touch with us regarding questions, comments, or topic ideas, call weekdays between 8 and 5, 570-323-8200. You can also write to us at 1685 4 Mile Drive, Williamsport, PA 17701, attention Freddi Hammer, or email me at fhammer@backyardbroadcasting.com. For archive programs of our In Touch series, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Backyard Broadcasting. Each current weekly program is featured on the Backyard Broadcasting websites. Individual opinions expressed here don't necessarily reflect the opinions of the management or staff. Thanks for listening to In Touch, a production of Backyard Broadcasting.